show is about your life, how to make it better, how to make more from it, how to love deeper, how to share it with others. This journey is about connection to your dreams, with topics centering on love, money, sexuality, and energy that unites it all. This show will change your life. For years, I've coached people in easy-to-learn skills, and I've seen incredible changes. I'm here to teach you those skills as a coach and hopefully a new friend. Hi, I'm Kyle. Come along with me as you move along your path of life success. Welcome to the Kyle Phoenix Show.
At the end of my last video, solving the bipolar disorder puzzle, I touched on the idea.
I am a dude known as Mr. Beat. Over the years, I have encountered opinions online like this.
Talking about the wicked ones in the Jewish community that run America, run the government, run the world, own the banks, own the means of communication. They are my enemy.
Jews control the mass media in this country. They control the United States federal government, and they control the Federal Reserve Bank.
I'm here to spread ideas, talk, in the hopes that somebody more capable will come along and do that. Somebody like Donald Trump, who does not give his daughter to a Jew.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Pretty disturbing, yes. And then I went to my colleagues and asked them this question. If there was just one group of people that has been kind of consistently persecuted throughout world history, what's the first group that comes to mind to you? I probably should tell you here that I did not tell them what to say beforehand. This was not scripted. In fact, they had no idea what this video was going to be about. They just were being nice and said, yeah, sure, I'll answer a couple questions on camera for you.
The Jewish population.
Jewish people.
The first group I probably think of with that would be the Jewish people.
Almost every single one of my colleagues said the same thing. They said the same group was the one that first came to mind when they thought about groups that were targeted throughout world history. And even though Jews make up less than 1/4% of the total world population, they do seem to come up a lot as a group that is consistently targeted, no matter where we're talking about, no matter what time period, including the present. What causes anti-Semitism?
Because for the most part, they're ignorant of what it really stands for. We always have a habit when times get tough of blaming things that we don't know for the reason why things go wrong.
I would say in a lot of cases because they've been a minority group in an area that's been in a lot of, many of the places, made them an easy scapegoat for a lot of majority groups to persecute or to blame social ills on.
I think they've disseminated throughout many of the populations of the European countries and have always been a minority. They have been easy to be picked on and persecuted and scapegoated for many of the problems of countries as they've gone through economic turmoil and political turmoil.
And not to discount any of my colleagues' opinions, they were all great answers, but I did my own research on this, and here is why Jews are hated. But before I dive into it, I want to let you know that I am making this video alongside Grant Hurst, a fellow edutuber who just released a video about the history of the Jewish people, so be sure to check that out after this one. Before we look at why people hate Jews, also known as anti-Semitism, we need to define Jew. A Jew is someone who identifies with the cultural community whose traditional religion is Judaism, who traces their ancestry to the ancient Hebrew people of Israel, all the the way back to Abraham. Jewish people are considered an ethno-religious group, both an ethnic group and a religion. There are plenty who identify as Jews yet are not religious. Israel's law of return, which is the law that gives Jews the right to visit and be a citizen of Israel, says a Jew is someone with either a Jewish mother or who has converted to Judaism. Anyway, during the time of Jesus in ancient Israel, many were of course Jewish, including Jesus himself. After Jesus died, his followers started a new religion called Christianity. As Christianity spread and as more and more Roman emperors converted to the religion, Jews became marginalized in society. Even though Jews worship the same God as Christians did, Roman rulers viewed the refusal of the Jewish community to accept Jesus as the Messiah as a threat. They straight up passed laws that discriminated against Jews. In the year 399, a law saying Jews couldn't marry Christians. In 439, a law saying Jews couldn't hold positions in government. In 531, a law saying they couldn't appear as witnesses against Christians in court. Rumors began to spread that Jews had horns and tails and that they killed Christian children and used their blood for rituals. In the Middle Ages, many societies forced Jews to live in segregated ghettos and wear special clothing. The Catholic Church did not allow Jews to own land, so Jews couldn't build up wealth through property. However, the church also didn't let Christians loan money for profit. Jews could, so they often turned to money lending to build up wealth. Due to the fact that nearly every money lender happened to be Jewish, this ended up creating a stereotype that Jews were greedy. I mean, people who loan money and charge interest throughout history have rarely been seen in a positive light, am I right? Christian rulers used Jewish money to build extravagant churches and build up armies. By the 11th century, Christianity dominated Europe, and the main minority religion was Judaism. Jews seemed to be the one group Christians could not convert, seen as outsiders. By this time, the Catholic Church was even teaching that Jews were responsible for the death of Jesus, and then the Black Death. During the 14th century, the bubonic plague spread quickly across Europe, killing around a third of its entire population. Since this was before science, people had no idea what was causing it. Due to superstition and fear, and without any evidence whatsoever, Christians blamed Jews for causing the plague, accusing them of poisoning wells to spread the disease. Probably one reason why Jews seemed to be a scapegoat was because they were not dying from the plague as much as Christians. We now know this was because Jews were generally isolated in ghettos away from Christians during this time, and because they were better about cleaning themselves and washing dead bodies before burial due to their religious customs. Still, tens of thousands of Jews were burned alive after being blamed for causing the plague. In 1543, Martin Luther, who gets credit for starting the Protestant Reformation, wrote a pamphlet called On the Jews and Their Lies. In it, he claimed Jews thirsted for Christian blood, and he actually encouraged the killing of Jews. Wow. Looking ahead at 1873, when the term anti-Semitism first appeared by a dude named Wilhelm Marr. Marr wrote that Jews were secretly trying to take over the government and that they shouldn't be citizens. In 1894, in what became known as the Dreyfus Affair, authorities accused a Jewish French army captain named Alfred Dreyfus of selling military secrets to the Germans. After evidence proved his innocence, anti-Semitic French authorities covered that up so he would be found guilty anyway. In 1903, the Russian secret police published some fake documents that were known as the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which described a conspiracy by rabbis to take over the world. The Russian secret police later murdered entire Jewish communities. After the communists took over in 1917, more than 500 Jewish communities in Ukraine were wiped out, and around 60,000 Jews were killed in what became known as pogroms. Today, the word pogrom means any organized massacre of a certain ethnic group. Then there is probably the most famous and horrifying genocide in world history, the Holocaust, during Adolf Hitler's reign of terror. He and his fellow Nazis blamed Jews for all of Germany's major economic and social problems after World War I. At the time in Germany, anti-Semitism seemed to be everywhere. The Nazis killed up to 6 million Jews during the Holocaust, most of them in extermination camps and concentration camps. The world was shocked to find out about the Holocaust, and fortunately, anti-Semitism declined after World War II. Based on all the attacks on Jews throughout history, for centuries, many Jews like Theodor Herzl argued that the only way to escape persecution, discrimination, and genocide was to create a Jewish state, specifically in Palestine, an area where historically Jews lived, and the location of ancient Israel. The movement to try to get Jews to return to Palestine to live and establish their own society was known as Zionism. Thanks to the efforts of people like Herzl, the Zionist movement grew, and Great Britain got on board. In 1917, in the Balfour Declaration, Great Britain announced it was establishing a, quote, national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, an area Britain now controlled after the fall of the Ottoman Empire in World War I. At the time, only about 4% of Palestine was Jewish. As more and more Jews moved to Palestine in the 1920s and 1930s, resentment grew among the local Arabs in Palestine, who grew to hate Zionism as a threat to their homeland. You could say Zionism entered the mainstream after people found out how the Nazis had treated the Jews before and during World War II. Many around the world embraced Zionism after the Holocaust, and Britain asked the newly formed United Nations to step in regarding what to do with Palestine. The UN proposed 2 states in Palestine, an Arab one and a Jewish one. At the time, Jews made up only a third of the population of Palestine and owned only 6% of the land. However, the UN's 2-state solution called for 55% of the land area for the Jewish state. On May 14, 1948, leaders announced the creation of the State of Israel, which immediately caused a war with neighboring Arab countries. Israel held back those Arab forces, but it ended up causing more than 700,000 Palestinian Arabs to flee their homeland. Why do I bring up modern Israel? Well, while much of the anti-Semitism that exists today has its roots in the Middle Ages, a lot of it boiled over with the creation of Israel.
You have as well a new form of anti-Semitism that is closely linked with anti-Zionism and hostility towards Israel. There is legitimate criticism of the policies of Israel, but there is a fine line that some people cross very easily between criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism.
In other words, some claim the creation of Israel and how the Israeli government has treated Palestinians and other Arabs ever since has also caused a new wave of anti-Semitism. Fortunately, today we don't see the systematic government-sponsored discrimination and genocide of Jews that we used to see prior to and during World War II. However, hop online and you will still see lots of hatred of Jews. There are lots of anti-Semitic groups that still exist around the world, and chances are you will see below this very video anti-Semitic comments. Go ahead and check it out, I'm sure they are there. Even if it's not straight up hatred, stereotypes persist about Jews. In 2009, an Anti-Defamation League poll found that 18% of respondents believe that, quote, Jews have too much power in the business world. And 13% of respondents said Jews, quote, are more likely than others to use shady practices to get what they want. Another poll given to citizens of Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan found that more than 89% of respondents had a, quote, very unfavorable opinion of Jews. We know the history now, but why does anti-Semitism persist? Well, I think David Feldman, director of the Pears Institute for the Study of Anti-Semitism, puts it best. Quote, People who dislike Jews rarely dislike only Jews, unquote. Jews often get lumped with other hated groups, all convenient scapegoats. When people today blame the Jews for the world's problems and say they secretly control everything, these are just old traditions passed down and taught to them. They are, frankly, unoriginal. So there's a lot of momentum that is hard to reverse. Jews have faced persecution, discrimination, and violence against them around the world for a couple thousand years after all. And while the bigger question is always, why do people hate others? It's important to also ask why specific groups are constantly targeted. Jews have constantly been one such group. As you watch this video right now, there are fathers somewhere in the world teaching their sons to hate Jews at this very moment. Anti-Semitism, unfortunately, persists, and it's up to us to make it a thing of the past. If you could just think of the first group that comes to mind as the most persecuted group in world history, what's the first group that just pops in your head?
Christians.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, this video is about anti-Semitism, so he just totally messed it up. Thank you to Mr. McClellan, Mr. Sandberg, Mr. Tieroff, and Mr. Frost for helping me make this video. And this was not an easy video to make. I spent a lot of time researching and writing the script, and this is not something I take lightly. So please let me know if you have anything to add to the video below. I know I was taking a bit of a risk making a video like this, so just try to be civil in the comment section. How should we solve the Arab-Israeli conflict? Let me know in the comments below. Also, a reminder to check out Grant Hurst's new video that he made that is also released today about the history of the Jewish people. I've linked it below. And finally, a shout out to my two newest Patreon supporters, Sergio and Pedro. Thank you so much. Next week, I return with a new episode for the Compared series.
I know that some people just look at us and think she gets to do what she does. She gets to have what she has because she has a white husband. This destroys me. Hi, I'm Freddie Harold. I was born and raised in France. I'm a blogger and an entrepreneur, and I am also married to a white man. But guess what? It doesn't say what you think it does. We met on OkCupid. So we met online. His profile, it just made me smile. He had like 3 times the same photo. And he was like super keen on the photo. He's like smiling like this. And you know like how guys don't smile on social media? They're like side posing and they're like topless or sunglasses. And here is this guy. So I was like, I like you. I didn't want him to be my boyfriend because he was like from the first date, he was so keen. He was like, one day I want to be married and be married forever. And I'm just like who speaks like that? You know? I was like, calm down. And it's like, I don't know, like show some game, you know? But my parents are from Cameroon and they moved when they were 25. With my husband, we couldn't come from more different worlds. Like honestly, we're from different worlds. Absolutely, the way we grew up, the way we've been, the things we've been exposed to, the money we've had, completely different experiences. For my husband and I, it's mind-blowing, but for my husband, posh upbringing, boarding school, having living nannies, tutors and everything. He is fully aware about his privilege now and he's becoming more and more radical and I love it. We had to learn together and he had to learn the hard way that some people around him were not what he thought they were. At our wedding, some of his friends have been awful to my friends. And some of his friends are definitely, like to say the least, prejudiced. And it was an education for him to even get there. I have had to learn to be cautious with the word racist, and I don't use it very often. I feel like the second you say that someone is racist, like they stop listening because you've insulted them. Some people are so quick to want to see internalize like racism, etc. I have been attacked on social media because of the color of the skin of my husband. And then like that's majority of the time when that happens is black people attacking me. And this man kept saying, what is it with you, like black European women, like African diaspora and your white husbands, as if like there's a collective of us like really like working hard on finding our white husbands. Like, this needs to stop. It's not like I've gone out of my way to find someone, like to find a white boyfriend. A lot of people around me were just white. I don't know, like I'm from France, there's like 65 million people. I don't think that I have racial issues because I'm married to a white person in a country where there's only 3% of us. I am the breadwinner. My husband at the moment doesn't work. He looks after our son, looks after me, like he supports me like in my dreams, etc. But you know, like I am the one who works. I cried when I found out I was having a boy. I didn't want a boy. I was so sad. I wanted a girl, and now I'm just like, no, I want a boy. I needed to have this boy. So for me, I'm, you know, really aware of what it is to be black. But then I must admit that I had not really asked myself too many questions about black men. And it shames me to admit that. My narrative was like black woman. And ever since I've had like a son, I feel like the makeup that we have in our relationship with our, like with my family around, like the relationship I had with, you know, like my late father, my brother, all of these things that have really prepared me to also be part of raising the next generation of black and brown boys. I only speak French to my son, and Tom only speaks English to him. Like before he's white and I'm black, we are like from different countries. My culture, like our African culture, and also like the French part as well, is very, very present in my son's upbringing and will always be. And for this, I'm really happy. And then you look at him. He has the thickest lips, and he has like a wide nose, and I think he's going to be. Oh, I just can't wait. It's going to be like this beautiful, gorgeous, tall, handsome man. And but we are very conscious as to how people around us are going to refer to him or how they're going to speak to him. My son is, I would say he's crazy, but he's not. He's a little boy. He has a lot of energy. He's running. He's doing all of the things. He is ridiculously strong. And, you know, like in nursery, they could say, oh, you know, like he's a beast. Or, you know, like he's problematic. And then if it's a little white boy, they will be like, oh, he's very opinionated. Oh, you know, like he knows what he wants. This is good. He's very confident. He's assured. If we teach our boys to believe that they are problematic, what are the chances that we are, like, how many opportunities are we really giving them? So then, like, it's so easy to look at teenagers and their behaviors. But if from the age of 2, you've been telling him that his energy, his strength, his stamina, his, you know, his drive, all of these are problematic. How do you expect him to grow into, you know, like a very well-behaved or driven teenager, or even like or a driven or confident adult, someone who really believes in himself? So my husband is at the top of the food chain, at the very top. It's like blonde, blue eyes, you know, like family holidays on the other side of the world and all of that. Like, but imagine going from being the number 1 to giving birth to someone who is almost, you know, towards the bottom. For my husband, I think that makes him so determined to be very, very educated around races and very educated around his privilege. Really make sure that his son has the path that he deserves, the same way that he's had a path given to him and all of these opportunities. And I also want him, as he grows, to be fully aware of his white privilege. I also want my son to keep this in mind, that he's also half white, and because of that, his skin is a certain tone that might open him more doors than he would my brother, for example. So I want him to definitely be proud to be both and to use both heritage to really like elevate the consciousness of both races, basically. This is what I would tell my son. This is beyond you. This is bigger than you. This is a decision of your higher self, or this is a decision of God. However you want to see it, it comes from higher, and this happened for a reason, and you just have to look for how this is happening for you and how you can turn this, like how you have to turn this into a positive experience for your community as a consciousness. I know it sounds cheesy, but I fall in love with the person, especially when it comes to my husband, is like, he's Tom, he's my Tom, like he's my person. People fall in love, that's it. I don't know.
You know, you follow the wisdom of the men who are older than you, and you will always be on the right path. So before Andrew was born, my son, who just turned 13, my wife's uncle recommended a book to me called Raising the Modern Day Knight. The author is talking about, like, we need to create a process to turn young men into, or young boys into men. And since nature won't do it for us, you know, this is how knights did it, and this is how it happened. And so the example he gave was, and it was pretty extreme, but he said, imagine if you took your son to a parking lot and you had all of the men in his life that you look up to, like, you know, the uncles and the grandparents, and they all give a piece of wisdom, and then you blindfold your son, and then there's like some rusty nails and broken glass and a bear trap, and you go, all right, son, you're gonna follow my voice from 50 yards away, and I'm gonna guide you to me without, you know, the rusty nails stabbing you or the glass cutting you or the bear trap getting you. And this is supposed to be the example, the metaphor of, you know, you follow the wisdom of the men who are older than you, and you will always be on the right path. And if he's willing to do this, trust the men who are older than him, blindfolded, etc., and there is fear involved, that's the rite of passage into manhood. And so anyway, after reading the book, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to have a son, I can't wait to have a son. So what I did, there's a kill house owned by a guy named Matt Schneider in Boise, Idaho. It's called Forward Movement Training. He was a Special Forces guy, and then he became a U.S. Marshal, and then he retired from there and opened up his own kill house, where, in fact, the week before us, SEAL Team 3 was there practicing, you know, room clearing and bank clearing. He's got, in a 40,000 square foot warehouse, cars and wacky little scenes of like a full-on a hotel lobby and a bank lobby and a house that has no roof with a catwalk, so like you can stand and watch. And so I'd met him a year ago, and he's like, hey dude, if you ever want to come out and do this thing. So I took my son and about 8 guys that I look up to, great dads, great leaders, and we went and we were shooting each other up with the rubber bullets, and he was training us, and there was so much fear involved, and it was super scary. And my son went through this whole process, the whole day with us. At the end of the day, we made a circle around Andrew, my son, and I had all the guys link up arms, and I had Troy lead it because I knew I would fall apart and cry, to be honest with you, Ryan. So I was like, hey Troy, this is what I need you to do. And so we all linked up arms, and Andrew's in the middle. Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps. And Troy was like, all right, Andrew, your dad wants you to know that all these men around you here, these are the men that he looks up to, that he works with, that are leaders, that he would trust with his family if he was ever dead. And these are the people that he wants to give advice that we wish we would have had when we went from a boy to a man, 12 to 13 years old. And as we face in with our arms linked, we're here to give you advice, to give you wisdom, and to call you out on your shit when you're not living the path of a modern day knight, Andrew. And then I had all the guys turn around with our backs to Andrew and our arms linked. And then Troy said, again, on my behalf, and your dad wants you to know, when we have our backs to you, it's not that we're turning our back on you, we're facing out to protect you. We're your protectors. And as you grow into a young man, and you're going to find your own tribe of men who are going to protect you and be there to give you wisdom. So as we have our back to you and our arms linked, no one can penetrate us. We're here to protect you and fight for you because we love you. And then I had them all turn around, and then I went in the circle with Andrew as well, and I turned on my iPhone. In fact, I'm going to send you the audio of this. It's 10 minutes and 10 seconds long, and every guy took the iPhone and just gave one piece of wisdom to Andrew. And dude, I'm talking like Green Berets, other Special Forces guys, FBI agents were there, entrepreneurs, one of my head sales guys who's just a great Christian, great leader, and we were all just falling apart crying. And for you to just hear the message that they gave, like, it was a learning experience for me. And so that was like the whole knighthood process that I put him through. And we're flying home, and he goes, Dad, I can't thank you enough. You just gave me like 20 years of wisdom in that one group. I said, buddy, this is what I wish I had. I read this book, and I hope that you read it so that when you have a son that you could pass this along.